Hello, I'm Dalton Delan. I'm a columnist for the Berkshire Eagle, and this is Eagle Reels, where we take you beyond the news. My guest today, Ari Zorn, co-owner of Devine Berkshires. Welcome, Ari.
Welcome. How are you? Thank you for inviting me on the show.
Thanks for being here. Ari, people might be surprised to know that there have been prominent Black-owned businesses since the 1800s, though they have faced unique challenges through the years. There's North Carolina Mutual Life Insurance Company, well-known, long-standing, banks, record labels such as Motown, sports, restaurants, beauty salons, cable channels like BET. The list goes on and on. In fact, at last count, there are more than 2.6 million Black-owned businesses. And now, a first for the Berkshires, your cannabis company in Egremont.
Yes.
What hurdles did you face?
Oh, well, like everybody in the industry, you deal with the banking issues, the lack of access to the banks. People don't want to give you loans. You also deal with the property issues of whether if it's somehow falls under federal jurisdiction, that you can't have a cannabis shop in it. But from the issue of color, although I did not qualify for the social equity, ironically, I would have to be from an impacted community, for example, like Pittsfield, and have to be arrested for cannabis charges, which is almost to me like what I would call just another insult. I've already dealt with the injustices of being Black in America as is. So to me, and once again, I keep saying this to other people as well, it just feels like a double insult of a program that's almost not intended to work, is how I would put it. But the hurdles, for a lot of people, and this regardless of color, you really have to have a lot of grit. My wife did this, so the proper name is Devine Retail Cannabis, but my wife and her sister, how we had to dissect that application was quite incredible. I feel like my wife and her sister deserve an award for how they just really dug in. I mean, it was a process. So for anyone out there, a lot of people don't understand. I hear a lot of people tell me they know what's going on in the industry or they know what it's like, but they really don't. But it's this roller coaster ride. I mean, you're going through the application process, and all of a sudden, on particular dates, you have to have this information and that information, and then they get it, they approve it, and then you wait another 6 months. On average, it takes 3 years to get a shop open. But I will say this: being a mom and pop shop, it's really hard to get. You have to advocate for yourself. You have to promote yourself because. Kind of which is upsetting to me. I thought everyone's going to be like, oh, wow, look what they did. Let's jump on board. Let's give them, national exposure and really talk about this shop. And that didn't happen. That was only because I forced it to happen. And I feel like it was my connection in the community, just like my wife, from being a chiropractor, personal trainer, running booster clubs. I owned Dos Amigos. I was a Mexican restaurant that was in town. That's why I moved out to the Berkshires. I have a culinary arts degree in hotel restaurant management. And the small businesses, you really got to fight for yourself. And because no one's got their hand out trying to help you go through it like a lot of the larger corporations. So that piece I found really kind of interesting, at the same time, a little upsetting, but we're doing it. We did it. It's going very, very well. People are starting to see that what we're truly about. We're truly a shop that is about the Berkshires. As I don't know how much you know about me, but I'm friends of Smiley's Pond. I sit on the board of One Berkshires. I sit on the board of BEAT. I sit on the board of BNRC. I am on the Environmental Justice Advisory Council of Massachusetts, appointed by Governor Baker, a program started by Deval Patrick. I do a lot in the community. So we're known. That made that process easier, well known in our town, but it was still hard. There's a lot of myths about cannabis. We see cannabis as it's a medicine, it's healing. A lot of people use it to deal with their trauma, stress, anxiety, you name it. If you were able to sit in the shop and listen to people's stories about what this product does for them, it's mind-blowing, and maybe this affects you, but a huge percentage of our population doesn't sleep. Gummies that people use if you don't want smoke in your lungs. I'm a personal trainer. I like gummies. I love them I use them for muscle recovery. It just relaxes my body. I would rather take, and if people really knew, I would much rather take something that doesn't have side effects on my body, as we know that lots of medication does, and it blocks neurological pathways. Cannabis are the natural cannabinoids within your body that are already there for you, like creatine's already there for you. So it's natural. Once again, I have to say, I'm not a doctor, so before someone tries to come at me, but man, I mean, it's a magical product. It really is. And I can tell you stories about other people's personal experiences that are kind of mind-blowing.
Well, on that subject, Ari, you were the first dispensary in the area to stock Terence Stevens' Ironside gummies. Can you tell us about Terence Stevens' mission and why you've supported it?
I support it because I have to support it, because I feel like, first of all, I feel like Devine, the CCC had an intention of this social equity and helping people of color on, but it didn't work. For me to be sitting here and saying that I'm one of maybe two, and I think of four, and two of them are closed currently, it didn't work. It failed. And no shade to them, but it did not work. I feel like I feel like Devine is that role model for that. So Terence Stevens, that was huge. I forgot how I met him, but he was incarcerated by the Rockefeller laws. I don't know how much you already know. In jail for, I think, 17 to 18 years, quadriplegic. And somehow I made the connection, but we launched that product with the TV crew there at Devine. And as far as I'm concerned, I have to help him, because I look at this is about people in general. This is about people as a whole, regardless of your color. How do we help one another? And he was struggling and he had suffered. You have to help. He's not the only one. There's a couple of, but that was super intense. His mother showed up. I mean, things I didn't expect. His mother was there. I can't imagine how she had felt with her son in prison for nothing. She gave me a big hug and was crying and wouldn't let go. That was very powerful. When you truly can open up your eyes and walk in other people's shoes and try to understand what it's like for them to be in this country. I'm black, but imagine you got Asians, you have Mexican, you have trans, you have gay, all these people that are just suffering because they're not being accepted for who they are. That's what Devine is all about. It's about everybody. And we show that when you come walking into the store, you see how it's set up. It looks like the Berkshires, because that's where we are. It is natural. I want to say it's farm to table. It's organic, and it means a ton to us. We're more concerned about helping people than the money. Some shops are purely set up to just keep those people running through, don't educate them, and make money. That's not what we're about. And it's been that part of this has been a beautiful journey. It really, really has. Yeah, it's put a lot of stress on me and my wife, but life is stress, and it's all about how you handle it.
Ari, are some of those differences that you mentioned, are they part of your success? At this point in time, an easy drive for anyone around the Berkshires shows a lot of competition. And in fact, across the country, 79% of Americans actually now live in a county with a dispensary. What separates you? How have you made a go of the business?
First, once again, I have to go back to my wife. The amount of money that we raised, the amount of money that we used to get open is unprecedented. People usually spend 10 times the amount that we did, and that's because we did it. We dug down into it, and we did it. We did not fall for this. It must have been like the gold rush, or everyone feels like they can get a piece of this pie, so they're going to pay more for rent. They're going to buy properties and wait 3 years to get a license, or not even get a license. We were very, very smart about every little step. It even worried me at times that we weren't doing enough or spending enough, and that stress came in. But what really has made us successful, once again, is how authentic we are. People know us. Our story is a real story. If you go look at other stores, and I'm not trying to slight anybody because I don't know all of them, but I know Tito Jackson in Boston, for example, Apex North. We are buddies and share a lot of the same storylines. He busted his butt to get his store open. He has a story that comes from his heart and wants to help people. We're all about that. So believe it or not, in this world we live in, people want to feel like they're a part of that. They come into the store and tell us. On a daily basis, are you Ari Zorn? I'm here to support you. I had a guy come in and say that he doesn't use product, but he loved our story so much and was so inspiring to him that he wanted to come in and he was going to buy something. It just, you don't expect that. But you also see a lot of these people in our world that we're living in, and I'm not going to get political, but you go look at the political climate, you go look at the environmental climate, you go look how the media is feeding news to us. There's a lot of really anxious, stressed out people who feel like the world's going to end tomorrow. Their anxiety and their level, and they come into the store. It's amazing how many of them you see, and people's anxiety, and I hear the breath they take out, they let loose when I come in the store and say, oh, this place is so nice, I feel so relaxed, and then they share their stories. I never saw that coming. Like, that's been the really, like, the beautiful part of this, when someone looks at me and grabs me and says, hey, thank you for being here. I didn't see that coming. From being a personal trainer, you get to help people one-on-one, but on a global scale, when you see people coming in and seeing what this product does for them, it's really kind of, leaves you speechless sometimes.
Ari, when you talk about that, and it's very moving, and the subject of community in this country is one that we've returned to again and again on these conversations, and yet I hear that. And then I heard the arduous process you all went through with your application process. And then now I know that because of the federal laws and how they differ, credit card companies are still an issue, at Visa and MasterCard. And then there are impact fees, which I know some of your fellow dispensaries are now filing suit against, claiming no demonstrable impact. You have not joined that suit. Could you tell us what you feel about the impact fees and why you haven't joined?
We're sitting back and, we're really thinking about it. Me personally, unless I'm missing something, and I really don't think I am, when the CCC wrote these bylaws and regulations, they did them with the intent that these things would be problems, that the impact fee, that there would be a nuisance problem. And there wasn't, but their intent, I just don't see how you're supposed to get back money for a law that they changed. That doesn't make any kind of sense to me. I can get them wanting that money or someone trying to entice them to go after that money, but at that current time, I didn't like that rule, but it was the rule. There's a lot of rules we have in society that we don't like, but we have to deal with them. And then we lobby to change them. So I feel like they lobbied and they're trying to change that. I don't know. So to me, it's like carry on from that point. Also, I have a good relationship with my town. I feel comfortable enough, as well as my wife, that I can go talk to my select board and ask them how they intend to handle this situation. That seems much more humane to me. Because, we live in a community. You want to keep it a community. Isn't it much nicer to have a conversation about something before you just drop an axe on them? And once again, I know these other businesses, that are going into this lawsuit, but that's my personal take on it. I'm not slighting anybody. The cannabis industry is crazy. And there's also a lot of people hemorrhaging. We don't know what's going on with some of these other businesses. There's so many shops now, but more than anything, there's so much cultivation and there's so much product and the price has dropped. So their initial investments and these investors, it's all dropped. This is supposed to be one of the hardest years in the industry. Actually 2023, and it's continuing. There's places that aren't going to make it, for multiple reasons. Some of them spent way too much getting going. Some of them, out there don't know what they're doing. That goes with any business, whether it's a restaurant, I don't know how many people, hey, I can cook this particular dish. I'm going to open a restaurant. I mean, it's a grind. To stay compliant in the industry, that's a grind, So I was going to add this to you, that it feels like cannabis is legal, but it's federally illegal. So it feels like, yay, I'm rewarded for getting a shop, but it comes with a ton of headaches and regulations, and it feels like now they're really on me. The feds are watching. You got to watch your numbers. You have to be, you got to follow all these rules. Some people sit back and ask themselves if it was worth it. There's a lot of people out there failing and that never, ever got open.
Ari, it seems it's an extraordinary story, and your resilience and your entrepreneurial spirit, they're so self-evident and evident also in the many enterprises you're involved in. Now here, all that you're talking about, the origins of this occurred, during the pandemic. You have, over 100 investors. You used crowdsourcing. When we look nationally at what did occur, and again, the sad difference of the fact that Black-owned companies suffered unequally during the pandemic. We know that that there were communities with higher incidences of COVID, weaker ties to banks and the banking system, and less loans through the federal Paycheck Protection Program. And yet, here you went and did it. It seems incredible that you did that. Is that your backbone? What accounts for your taking on this enterprise in the face of all that?
It's funny you say that. My mom just asked me that. My mother, who is a civil rights lawyer, I'm adopted. Her name is Tama. She's white. I was adopted into a white family, Tama Zorn, and she worked for Martin Luther King, Malcolm X, on and off. And this woman was tough as nails. You're not allowed. When I grew up, you're not allowed excuses. I'm a father. I will not let my kids look me in my eyes because I've failed at something. And then I'll throw the color in there. I've always been told that I'm not good enough my whole life. I've taken that as a challenge. First I went to sports. I'm putting muscles on my body in sports to become powerful. But I take everything as a challenge. I look at everything because how I viewed life and how I feel as a battle that I'm going to win. That's my view. That's how my wife is. It's like, more like this. I guess best way to put it is, did you just tell me that I can't? That's all I need to hear. Did you just say I can't do that? You know how many times I've heard that in my life? I never do that to my kids, by the way. You know, like to me, I remember my mother saying to me, for example, you could be president if you wanted to. And I remember just looking at her like, yeah, that's what parents say, right? Are you serious? You know what, though? There's truth to that. There really is. If you have the grit, you know, I know not all people have that, to go for it, you can. You know, you can be what you want to be if you put your head into it. We're fighters and we're survivors, and it's always been that way, and it's always going to be that way. And every time I've upped the scale, it becomes like I want to do more. Because you got one chance to live and do things. You know, I got people that tell me, how do you do so much? Why do you do so much? How do you do them all well? Maybe you should just do one of those things. I'm like, I have one life. Right? The time is now. There's things I want to see on this planet, at least in my world. And if I can affect my community, if I could even help one person, I've done something. I also feel like, how could I be doing wrong when everything that I do in all these organizations, it's about bettering other people and the environment that we live in. I mean, so that fuels me. I love being connected to my community. So does my wife, which means a ton to us. And if I put it one way, you know, that quote that always sits in my mind, and I used to think this stuff was silly. Gandhi, be the change you want to see in the world. That's what I'm doing. I want to do my best around me, for my kids, for my community, for other people, to lead by example, to show them all what they can do if they change their mindset. Too many people are in a mindset that they can't, and that they're defeated, and that the world every day is gloomy, you know, and it's not. Like today, if I look outside, most people say this is a crappy day. You know, I look outside and just say, so it's a little bit overcast. If I go for a walk, I'm more likely to see different creatures or animals because it's overcast. You know, so here I am making a post on Friends of Smiley's Pond saying, on a day like this, every day is a beautiful day if you learn how to see the beauty in it. That's the way I think. That's me. You know, but it took a lot to get to that, but that's the new and current me for the last 4 years, because that's the world I choose to live in. You know, like having a good day is a choice. I don't know if your parents ever said that to you. You wake up and decide what kind of day you're going to have and what you're going to do. Do I want to live defeated, or do I want to feel like I'm doing something? That's what it all comes down to me. I mean, that's like how I would sum that all up. I don't care about color. I'm tired of all the talk. You know, diversity, equity, inclusion. You know, no disrespect once again to anybody out there. And you got packets and programs. Let me see. Like, I would sum that up like this: treat people the way you want to be treated. There it is. Do we have to come up with a game plan for that to be nice? It's like, do we have to go back into history to determine like, oh, that was wrong doing that? Oh, okay. Like, I find that a little bit mind boggling. Like, I really do, because it seems so basic to me. It seems very black and white. Treat people with respect across the board. There you go. There's my diversity. I just solved the world's problems right here.
Ari, I can't top that. I hope every young person in America gets to hear what you just told us. It's truly sitting here on what is an inclement day outside, and I feel like you've just created a celebration for a great day. And I really thank you for that. And I'm sure you have for everyone watching this. Ari Zorn, co-owner, Devine Berkshires, and many other businesses you're involved in. Thank you for your caring, your community, and your encouragement of others to be all they can be. And viewers, if you're already a reader and subscriber to the Berkshire Eagle, thank you. If you're not yet, please consider becoming one. What you just heard is the kind of thing we bring you. It's important, and we need your help to support keeping local journalism and community alive in America. I'm Dalton Delan. I'll see you next time on Eagle Reels and in the pages of the Berkshire Eagle.